Okay, so
Welcome.
only six again. This side is millionaires, and this side is minimum wage workers. Anyone can become rich if they work hard enough.
You want to give your take on this before they speak, or you want to wait?
Up to you.
You know what? I'm gonna let Alexia say her piece first. Go ahead.
First,
Yeah.
okay. Um, so I'm picking apart the sentence now as it is, right? And
Mm.
if it's as it is, because we could reword it like we did the last two, and it could completely change. So this sentence, I would go up and agree, and I would be like, yeah. I mean, if anyone works hard enough, and they have a good business sense, they know what they're doing. Of course, they can become rich. There's 100,000 ways, and unfortunately, probably 50% or more of them are scamming ways. But yeah, if you work hard, anyone can become rich. Yeah,
I
if
agree.
it's
I agree with
worded this
that.
way.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I agree with that to an extent. I just think, for me, I would change the hard pause to smart because
So then you wouldn't sit in the beginning, is what you're saying.
no.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. If the sentence was like this, because we can change one word in this sentence and have a completely different conversation. And that's what's interesting about this series or this group.
There you go. Yeah. All right. So let's see what they have to say. Let's see who agrees.
Anyone can become rich if you work hard enough.
So I just think that anyone could become rich if they actually like believed in themselves and took the risk to actually believe in themselves, that there is some success at the end of the line of that.
I feel like a lot of it comes down to mindset first and really having the belief that you can do that. I know for me, one of my biggest concerns was I didn't have any skills whatsoever and I didn't get into college. I have like a 2.0 GPA in high school. Like it was terrible. I had such bad grades, but I really turned that into a positive, and I really believe this actually happened for a reason because now I could pursue something else, which was real estate, because that didn't require a college degree. And looking back now, that was the best thing that had ever happened.
That's like a really sticky situation with anyone can become like rich, and because I don't think that's completely true. A lot of people can if they have like connections and stuff, you know, but I feel like sometimes people like they work two jobs, or sometimes they have other things going on. They have to pay their needs first. They don't always have like money for that, you know? Because like my dad, he's like a landscape worker. He has tried making his own company and it doesn't always like work out. He has tried hard. It doesn't work. That's why I think it's like you have to have connects, you know? That's why.
Do you mind if I interject?
Yeah.
In terms of building connections, I didn't have any connections either when it comes to working in real estate. And what I did to make the connections is I went to open houses every single Sunday for months. And I probably met at least 50 or 60 real estate agents. And it was through that I met one agent who was really gracious enough to say, if you want to come work underneath me, I'm happy to do that. And it was really that connection, which like you mentioned, connection, that I met that person through just really kind of putting myself out there to meet people.
Well,
There's a lot
would you
of
consider
institutional.
that working hard then, or luck? Because in one case, he's going every Sunday to these things, right? But in another case, he's just showing up. He's not doing shit. And then he met somebody that took him under his wing. So is that hard work or is it luck?
I'm gonna be of the mindset. I'm gonna say I think that's hard work because that takes dedication. There's a saying that I love that says, "Success is going from failure to failure without the loss of enthusiasm." So he said he saw about 50 to 60 different real estate agents until one decided to take him under his wing. And if he wasn't dedicated enough, he wouldn't have met it. That old meme they show where it's like that guy digging underground and then one guy quits before he hits the diamond and the other guy keeps going. It's like you never know how close you are. Like me, I have a saying where it's just like, don't wait for inspiration to find you. Put yourself in a position where you can find inspiration.
Yeah.
And then it will meet you. So it's the same thing, I believe, with opportunity. So I like when he brought that up as far as like, I understand you're saying you got to make connects, but you also have to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
To find it.
I get that too, because it's not everyone. And even though he had bad grades and I don't know what his life at home was, but not everyone can even afford the time to go and do that. You know what I mean? Like this girl in the pink, if her father, he wouldn't be able to do that because he still needs to eat. So he doesn't have the time, resources, or money or energy to spend 2 years gambling every Sunday to meet somebody because he's got to eat in those 2 years. So, like, I get it, but that's kind of why, I mean, while you're doing that, you still work, you still eat, and then on your free time, you don't have free time because you're going to go, and that's where the hard work comes into play, right? So, like, at the end of the day, I don't know, again, her situation either, but
Yeah.
it could have been, like, it's just a decision. Not that he's lazy, but, like, he didn't apply himself. He started a couple companies, and there probably are some things that are inhibiting people from doing things and starting businesses, like, I don't know, race, upbringing, location, things like that. But
Yeah.
again, I mean, like you said, right? If you stop, like, you never know how close you're gonna get, and you're gonna fail. And it's very easy, especially for this billionaire real estate guy, to look back and be like, yeah, well, it took me 50 Sundays. It probably took him longer in a sense, but I was just saying, again, not that it doesn't cost time or like energy to go out on a Sunday, but I'm just saying, like, there's got to be more to that story. It's not you went to these places every Sunday and then met someone that took you under your wing just because you didn't stop going. Like, you know, there had to have been something else.
Yeah. No, I agree. There definitely has to be something else. And, you know, there are situations that people, you know, grow up in an environment. Like, sometimes they grow up with parents who are not financially literate, so they don't teach them anything. And a lot of the relationship that people have with money is inherited by what they see their parents doing. So if you see your parents struggling and you're hanging out in neighborhoods where everyone's waiting until Friday payday to go out for the weekend and blow it and back on work on Monday, like, you've almost conditioned yourself to, like, have that as a habit. You know?
But that's then where the hard work comes in, because you don't want to do that. So you have to break the cycle, and you have to break the pattern. So the hard work would, you know, one day make you rich. But that also comes with
definitely.
sacrifice. You're
Yeah.
going to sacrifice partying, clubbing, relationships, you know,
Yeah,
at least
yeah.
for temporary.
And a lot of people don't do that because, you know, they got FOMO. They fear missing out, or, you know, they don't want to be in an uncomfortable position. And, you know, I can't tell you how many actors or musicians I've heard that, like, literally were living in their van or on the street before they blew up. And everybody thinks, like, oh, they're an overnight success. And it's like,
Of course.
they sacrificed a lot. They didn't know. They just had this belief. And I'm sure there were countless of more stories of everyone else who did those things and they never made it. So
Yeah.
I completely get it, you know, because if it always worked, everybody would be a millionaire, you know, so
Yeah.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
Beverly Hills $5 million house not speaking English, they're probably not going to give you the like hookup. We don't tend to move within circles where those connections cross economic and socioeconomic lines. But even beyond that, I want to say, like, you took a big risk and your risk paid off. But what if your risk hadn't paid off? And that's for a lot of people who do try and start their own business or try and start their own YouTube channel. That risk doesn't pay off, and there's no real safety net there. So we're not really getting an adequate side of people
Yeah,
who've like taken
just
that
what I said.
entrepreneurial risk and not been able to take it again.
I'm almost worried it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, though. If you go in it fearing, oh, what am I going to fail, and that becomes your main focus, I think more people are less likely to take risks actually needed to succeed because they're more focused on not failing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think your beliefs create the level of action you take, and the level of action you take determines your results, and it is cyclical.
I mean, I agree with the other points that was being made.
I mean, I think that he was a billionaire, right? He said,
Millionaire.
sorry, whatever. Millionaire. He said what I
That's
just
a big
said.
difference.
Well,
No, the
for
guy that said
purposes
what-
of the fucking Jubilee, I don't fucking care. Like,
The dude that just said what he said, the bald one, he was a minimum wage worker.
oh, the bald guy was a minimum wage?
Yeah.
I'm confused then, because the girl in the pink shirt, she came from the side of millionaires, and then when her name came up, it said minimum wage worker, and now I'm genuinely confused at who the fuck is talking.
All right, just pay attention. That's all. All right, so free range versus strict parents. Spanking your child is an acceptable form of punishment. Oh. Were you ever spanked as a child, Alexia?
No.
Nope. The fact that you had to think about it already told me the answer.
No, I was never spanked or hit. My abuse was far worse. It was emotional, but my dad used to threaten to hit me, and it was funny because at a very young age I learned that, like, he's not about it. So I was like, oh yeah,
Wow.
you're gonna hit me, yeah, like.
That's fucked up. You're
I
one of
know.
them kids.
It's fucked up.
Spanking your child is
All
an
right, my parents beat
acceptable
the shit out
form
of me.
punishment.
But all right, let's.
What? I don't want to get involved at all.
Yeah, this is not.
Do we have to?
We don't have to do it at all.
I don't even want to
I'm still
stand
thinking.
back here.
Well, we don't have to, you guys don't have to participate in the conversation whatsoever.
But is it going to show our position, like standing back or sitting?
We do see you guys in the background, but we just want to hear his perspective. Then people can walk forward, but if you don't want to participate in the conversation whatsoever, you don't have to.
Wow, yeah, so I'm kind of
Audio.
saddened that nobody else walked forward
Yeah.
because not only do I think it's an acceptable form of punishment, but I think it's one of the best. And the reason is because it's effective, it's quick, it's over, it's done, and the kid can go off and play again and not have to sit in a corner or languish in a room or something like that. And it's not
Okay,
about
sorry, wait.
getting angry, I'm mad, I'm gonna whack my kid. No, it's about, okay,
Go ahead, Alexia. I see your expressions.
Wait. Okay, it's not that I'm
Triggered.
like disagreeing with him, but I just noticed that there are 6 people, 3 and 3, and he's the only man. So the other 2 mothers that are strict mothers are just hanging back, and the man is out here like, yeah, it's not only acceptable, but it's like a great form of punishment. And that's kind of scary because if a woman came out and said that, I don't think I would be so like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? And the fact that he's the only man. So if there was another man there that held back and stood back, then I'd be like, let me hear what these guys have to say. But he's the only man. So now I'm like,
okay,
Interesting.
you made him,
I
you
didn't
did something
peep
you
that,
weren't
but you're
supposed to
right.
do,
Huh.
and you're going to get spanked for this.
So I'm going to ask any of my disagreeers who wish to step forward to talk about this, please do. If you wish not to step forward, you don't have to.
The specific anecdote I have is for my child is one time, like, you know, as a parent, you can lose your patience, and that happens. We would just kind of like slap him on the hand when he did something.
oh,
like,
that's
"Don't
a
do that.
guy. I'm
Don't do
so
that."
sorry.
And I remember one time he did something.
You good over there, Alexia?
My bad. They were in the dark and far away. Okay.
What's up with you misgendering people?
Oh my God.
Slap him on the hand when he did something, like, "Don't do that. Don't do that." And I remember one time he did something, and he started becoming more self-aware, and he started hitting himself on the hand and hitting himself. And I was like, I can't do this. We can't go down this path with him. This is not going to work for, at least specifically for him. And I think it's a case-by-case basis too. Like, you know, you've led your kids in a way that hopefully he doesn't lash out into the real world. I don't want him to react like that to someone else either. And I just feel like that's my responsibility. So.
Yeah, and you know, I hear that opponents to spanking will say, I don't want my child to be violent.
Yeah.
You know, I have 5 kids, 10 and under, and the exact opposite is true.
Because do you think it's a bad memory for them?
What's that?
Do you think that they're going to have memories of these times being spanked, and that it will be
Sure, and I think they'll
something
be
that
thankful for it. I would do, because I talk.
I mean,
He
I would
was
be lying
beat
if
the
I said I
fuck up when
never
he was
have
a
Go ahead, Alexia. Yeah, your expression caught me. I was like listening and I just swinging it back.
No, because it's very clear that this man was beat when he was a kid. Like, so it's kind of like that hazing thing where, like, well, I got hazed, so now it's your turn. Like, you know, we can't go on. Like, I can't just let the people in the last class last year get away with it, so now I got to do it to the next class.
I'm paying it forward.
That's literally what he is. It's like very obvious. So again, it's not that I'm like, oh, that guy's completely wrong, but it's like, well, look at, you can see where he's coming from now. He's coming from like I was gonna say severe pain, but like this is what he grew up with, so this is all he knows.
No pun intended.
But he's literally like, they'll be thankful for it, and I was like, oh, and then that's what he is. But he's thankful for it because he thinks that he's a man. So if he was in the first question where men are defined clearly or whatever the question was, he definitely would have been like, yes, they are. He would have been right there with that black guy that was like, men are not allowed to be soft and not allowed to suffer, blah blah blah. Like it's the same person.
I'm gonna
And
save my
child,
comments
of
for the
course
end.
but I don't feel good about it. Don't you want to raise your child to not want to do things because they feel as if they'll be a better person, not because they're going to be punished for it?
Yeah, both. See, this is hard for me to understand because I come from a culture where Everyone, like all my friends have loving parents that spanked them as kids. And now they've grown up to be great well-functional adults who respect their parents and are glad their parents spanked them.
Okay, I'm just gonna say my view. So I don't spank my child, one, because of chattel slavery and Jim Crow. I'm a black
Because
person
of
and I
what?
live in a world where black people are beaten all the time. I have a mother who
I want to give her space to talk, but that just really irks me. I hate when people like the prompt is one thing and then she made it about slavery and race and like
Immediately.
let's not make it like a black thing. Like, I'm aware it happens, it's fucked up, it's horrible, but whatever. I'm gonna let her finish her piece, but I know that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. It was just like, come on, like you had to like make it that like right from the jump. Like your first 2 sentences were that. Like, all right, cool.
spanked me. I'm not glad that I was spanked. I respect her, but I'm not happy about that. Also, the same thing with the people who are like, I was spanked, I came out great. They usually have like anger issues, they're violent, they whip their own kids, they probably need therapy. Usually they don't even realize how emotionally fucked up they are.
Well, you gotta understand, parenting is more than just I spank or I don't spank. If you're a terrible parent and you think that spanking is gonna fix your kid, you're wrong.
So Alexia started by saying that she was never beaten. She was threatened, but never beaten. She like basically suffered something way worse, emotional or psychological, abuse, right? I'm not downplaying it, but I'm just saying. So, me, I was beat by my mom and my dad. Now, I can only speak for myself. I don't beat other people just because I have like anger issues. I'm a pretty well-mannered, tempered person. Like I think I have a pretty decent EQ. Like I don't like lose in a video game and go rah! Like I don't do that. Like I try to use common sense and logic and try to be understanding. I respect my parents. Do I enjoy that I was beaten? No, but at the same time, I'm not resentful about it.
But are you happy that it happened?
I think for me, what it was, and I was listening to what she was saying. I think, and this may have made it different for me, but growing up, where I like in my neighborhoods where I grew up in, like it was almost kind of like a bragging thing. Like, oh, my parents beat me worse. Like, oh, my mom did this to me. My mom did that.
Yeah, in our generation, you're right.
Yeah, and we kind of just made jokes about it. So maybe for some reason, for me, like because we did that when I was young, when I got older, it kind of like diminished it. I know, like when I was like 15, my mom tried to like spank me, and it just didn't work anymore. I remember she like slapped me in the face.
Well, yeah, you were twice or... Oh, no, you're short. You were almost as big as her.
Shut up. Anyways, I remember she slapped me in the face. She was like really mad about something, and literally my head did not move like an inch. And that's when she realized, she's like, oh, like he's not...
That's enough of that.
Like, yeah, she goes, he's not a little kid anymore. And then I just took it. And she saw I wasn't crying. I didn't flinch, nothing.
Well, also, good thing that you personally weren't like, you got slapped and you didn't move and you were like, my turn. Like,
that'd be crazy.
Right?
Like, and that's the thing, though. Like, I will say
some
this.
Some kids be doing that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, for me, and I can't speak to other, like, children, but I respect my mother. Like, I would never blatantly disrespect my mom. I won't curse at my mom. If my mom does something that I feel makes me feel uncomfortable, I will voice it, and I will not let her treat me like a lapdog just because I'm her child. But at the same time, I will not publicly disrespect my mother. Like, I will always defend my mom, like, no matter what. But that's the thing. Like, I see a lot of kids that do wild shit. That just, like, yell at their mom and blah, blah, blah. And to me, I'm like, man, like, yeah, your parents never beat you, so, like, you never felt like the repercussions, like, knew that it could go that far. Like, I guess for me, it's just, like, and maybe this is a horrible example, but I'm just pulling out of thin air, but it's almost like that bully that picks on that kid. And if the kid never retaliates, the bully's going to think it's okay. And he's not going to feel no consequences because he's like, oh, I could bully this guy and he's not going to attack me. But when someone tries to bully somebody who then bites back, the bully like, oh shit, they stop. So I kind of use that same thing as like children. If your children are talking to you after a while and you just like try to talk to them, okay, time out, time for time out, go in the corner, like like after a while they're gonna become aware enough. Like timeout ain't shit. Like I'm just gonna sit there and just memorize thing or just think about Jake or blah blah blah, and then act like I'm cool, or take away their PlayStation. But you get slapped in the face, you get your ass whooped, then it's like, oh, like okay, my mom's really not playing with me. Like I better like switch it up. But that's just me. I just feel like that's what it is.
Well, I never got
ahead,
spanked,
Alexia.
and I don't
I
have
can
any
tell.
kids. But
What?
if I did, and this is gonna sound fucked up, so let me get to the end before you come in here with your shit, especially you in the comments. If I did have kids, I do think that they would absolutely respect me, but I wouldn't hit them. It would be sort of like they would, in a sense, fear me, but the way that like I fear God. So it's sort of a fear out of respect and love, not a fear like I'm gonna fuck you up. It's a fear like that, and fear might be the wrong word, but we're supposed to fear God in the same way. So that's why I'm sort of comparing it that way. But like it's not. I've never tell my kid like I brought you into this world. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna take you out. Like none of that's necessary. But I do think that you can discipline and teach your kids lessons without getting physical. And the only reason I'm saying that is because when I grew up, like I said, I never got beat. So I learned that like words are actually just as powerful or probably sometimes more powerful if you know how to use them. So no offense to any of you or if, you got beat. But like it seemed like the parents that were a little bit less educated or had a little bit less control over their emotions, right? That's why they beat, because they didn't know what else to do. But like an intellect, and again, no offense, I'm just spitballing here. An intellect would be like, even like now, you're an adult, Chris. Even if you did some shit, I would be like, oh, that's what we're doing now. Say less. I would love to treat you the way that you treat me. So I'm going to start tomorrow, and we're going to see how much you like it. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, wait, what?
I don't like the way you said that. That was kind of intimidating to me. I was like, I don't like that.
Point proven. So, yeah.
I don't like that.
So that's exactly my point. Anyway.
So you wouldn't beat your kids. You
No.
would just do psychological damage.
That's not what I said either. And I didn't even realize it was psychological damage until I was like after puberty, you know what I mean? So like when you look back, you're like, oh shit, that's fucked up. But like, whatever. I also don't think that all kids that get beat turn into violent people. But yeah, it's just like you said before with the other prompt. It like when they grow up rich or whatever, if that's all they know, then that's all they're gonna do. So it's not necessarily that they're violent by nature. They don't know anything else. So when you hit them when you're upset, they hit themselves or you when they're upset. Then they start hitting walls when they're upset. Then they start hitting animals when they're upset. Then they start hitting people when they're upset. That's just normal to them.
Especially if you grow up in a house where like you're beating your kids, but then you're beating your spouse, or vice versa. You guys are beating each other, and the
Oh,
kids
God,
are witnessing
yeah.
that. That's crazy.
Nah,
you
that's
know.
crazy.
And I guess to answer that, like even though I was spanked as a kid, like if I had children myself, I wouldn't spank them. I wouldn't do it. Like that's like I feel like there are better ways to go about it. Like I honestly believe like just having a conversation with them and like leveling with them to a point to understand could actually alleviate a lot of things.
I mean, I also seen when Gen Z were teenagers, because now they're like a little like early 20s. But when Gen Z was like teenagers predominantly, those motherfuckers were the worst behaved pieces of shit on the planet. Like, I'm sorry. And if that was you, I hope you grew up, because it was literally back then we were like, do your parents didn't beat you? Because I'd smack you right now. You know what I mean? Like, they were just so inappropriate, wild, out of control for a laugh that didn't even last more than 5 minutes, or for a video that never went viral. Like, they were just the worst breed.
Yeah.
But we're talking teenagers, right? So it's like, if they were not, and there's a fine line, right? Like if you could do whatever the hell you want and like free range, do whatever you want, like then the kids grow up and they're like that and they're assholes and they're pieces of shit, and then they never got beat, but then now they're like teenagers and they're like, well, you can't beat me or else you're going to jail for assaulting a minor. I know my rights. And it's like, shut the fuck up, you. Like, Yeah, you're right, and I don't want to beat you, but there's no reason for you to literally throw pizza and eggs at the whole parking lot. Not a single reason. You know what I mean? Like,
I had a customer that actually happened to where she has a
pizza
little
and
girl.
eggs?
Well, no, she has a little girl. She didn't beat her, but she tried to reprimand her like psychologically, and the girl just kind of like rebelled and literally ran out the house. Was hanging out on the subways, like, and she was young, like younger than 16. Like doing this, running the subways, running the streets, hanging out with other folks, flirting.
Yeah, just acting out, like.
Yeah, promiscuous, and the mom can't do anything to control her, and she had to
it's
call
too late, yeah.
And she had to call the cops on her several times. She never beat her. Now she had to have her daughter taken away and put into a home where somebody else can kind of like reprimand her and get on the straight and narrow, and she's still like running out of that facility.
And that is crazy. And I still wouldn't be like, yeah, I beat that girl, but like. The point is, like, the discipline doesn't need to be beating, but there needs to be discipline. So you can't just be like, do whatever you want, because I even saw a bunch of toddlers, you know, just like screaming, pulling people's hairs, like on the beach, like pouring water on strangers, and their moms were like, ha 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 ha. Like, are you good? Like, your little boy's about to get rocked by me. Like, no, I wouldn't beat a kid, but.
But yeah, no. Again, I think the one point that the guy said, and then we'll move on after this because it's take way too long for this
topic.
That's true. But you know, he was basically saying that, like, yeah, sometimes parents are going through things and they take it out on their kid, and that's kind of the
Which
thing.
is
Like,
wrong.
I've realized, as I've grown up, that like there were things that I could have avoided had my mother or father had the right vocabulary or the patience to sit down and just explain it to me like logically, that I would have understood. Like, hey, Chris, we're just telling you this because when you grow up, this is what's gonna happen, blah blah blah, and we don't want you to make the same mistakes I did. But they never did it like that. They were just like, no, you're gonna do what we want and blah blah blah. And when you say it like that, your natural inclination is to rebel.
Right.
You know, that's naturally. So I just feel like it's just having effective communication that could solve a lot of things. I don't think you need to uppercut somebody like Mortal Kombat, you know?
Yeah.
So, all right, we're on to the next one.